Ben had asked us to tell the story of his birth, and so we're going to tell you about his story. So it starts with us. We were living in West Virginia at the time, and I had just finished my PhD, and this was my first job, and so
Laura was 3.
yeah, Laura was 3, and
we decided that it was time to have another baby because we didn't want them to be so far apart. As it was going to be about 4 years.
yeah. So, you know, one of your questions was, you know, when we discovered that we had a boy, and so we didn't have ultrasounds at that time, I don't think, and so we didn't know the sex of the baby until you were born. And when you were born, we found out we had a boy, and we were very excited because, you know, we now had a boy and a girl, and so it was a nice little family.
It was also a boy would carry on the Kidder name, the Jack Kidder line. So
Yeah.
that was part of it too.
Right.
So we got pregnant for you as part of my 31st birthday celebration, and we were ready and wanting another child, so it was a nice surprise. I won't go into all the pregnancy, but you decided to make your appearance 2 days before my due date. I woke up around between 2 and 3 in the morning on a Thursday, the 13th of September, and I was leaking, and I didn't know whether it was my bladder leaking or my water leaking. I did not have any pain, no contractions, even though I had had Braxton Hicks contractions all along. There was no activity, no pain. So I decided to wait until morning to see what happened, and I was hoping for the pains to start. Well, nothing happened, so we called the doctor, and she said, well, come into the office and I'll check you. So we went to the office, and she said it was definitely my water, but it wasn't. The sac hadn't broken, it was just leaking. So she said, I'll meet you at the hospital. So we went over to the hospital. It's a little more complicated when it's the second child because you have to have someone to take care of the first. So we had made arrangements with Mrs. Roberts, who lived, an older lady who lived 2 houses down, who had babysat for us for Laura's son. And so she was so excited to be part of it that she had her clothes laid out on the bed for weeks so that she would be ready whenever we called. And so we got to the hospital. She said it was my water, and so she broke the sac. Still no contractions. So the doctor said, I'm going to have to give you Pitocin, and I'll give it to you and go back to my office for the afternoon appointments, and the nurse will keep me posted, and I'll come back when it's time. So within about 15 minutes after she left, I started having wave after wave of contractions, just one on top of the other. And I had a really, really strong urge to push. So they called her to come back. She turned around and came back. And when she checked me, she said, it's time to go. So they ran down the hall with the gurney to the delivery room. And Ben, 3 pushes, and Ben was born. So altogether, from the time that the doctor broke my water to the time that you were born was about an hour tops. It went very, very quickly. was, you remember oh, you were born screaming. So, the next day, Friday afternoon, I went home from the hospital, and then Saturday afternoon, Mama and Papa showed up with an ice chest full of seafood. Mama cooked, Papa watched Laura and played with her, and you screamed.
And you screamed. And so I was had duty to try to calm you down, so I'd carry you around the house and jiggling you like this, and we tried Dan Fogelberg music that Laura liked and calmed down to, but you would have nothing of it. And so just by accident, I walked into the kitchen where the stove vent fan was going, making
Rosie was cooking.
Yeah, Rosie was probably cooking, and it was making this obnoxious noise, and you immediately calmed down, stopped crying, and so eventually we found out that that would work consistently, and so you'd eventually just go to sleep by that fan. Later on, we found out that you would go to sleep easily in the little baby swing that we got for you, and that was a good way to do it.
When you would start crying, you would get all red in the face, and it almost looked like you couldn't catch your breath, so it would scare people, but we kind of got used to it. And they even, one of the first Sundays I went back to church after you were born, probably about 6 weeks or so, one of the women came to get me out of church because you were screaming in the nursery and didn't know what to do for you. So another thing that would settle you down was to nurse, but you wanted to do that even when you weren't hungry. So so we tried a pacifier. That didn't work. You wouldn't ever take a pacifier, and so eventually, at about 3 months or so, you discovered that you could pick things up with your hands, and once you did that, there was no more crying. You had a world to explore, and you were interested in everything you touched.